Good morning, everybody. My name is Veronica and I'm an area coach for Sport Clips. Today I'm going to be walking you through one of our artistic team haircuts. We call it the Giovanni, and really what it is it's a disconnected haircut. I love disconnected haircuts because they are so versatile. I think sometimes they get a little underrated, but you can do so much with them. So let's jump right into it. To save time today, I have went ahead and sectioned my top working area out on my mannequin head. I did apply my handy dandy cutting aid so that I had good control through the hair and also wet down the top working area just so I could manage my sections better. So the first thing we want to note when we section out this top working area is that we're going to do a horseshoe. It's going to be a little higher up just because we are doing that disconnected and we want to have some versatility in the haircut. The other thing we're going to make sure that we do is just create kind of a small V in the back here. You can see V for Veronica, right? That's how we'll remember. The reason that we've done that is so that we can preserve some length right there. Maybe your client has a cowlick. Maybe the top of their crown is a little more flat, and so it's just going to give you a little more wiggle room to work with and really create some shape and some style. All right, so the first thing we're going to do with this haircut is we're going to take off the sides and the back. We're going to do that starting with the number 4 guard all the way closed, so it's a true number 4. And we're going to go ahead and start on the 2 o'clock side. Now, when we start on the 2 o'clock side, we're going to think about a couple of different things. Number 1, we're doing kind of a square haircut. So we're going to remember that we're going to come straight off the head. We don't want to accidentally divot in or rock out. We're going to come straight up. So whenever I think of doing straight haircuts, like a flat top or anything like that, I think about in elementary school, they would tell me, if you want to have good posture, pretend there's a string on top of your head, pull it up to align your spine. So when you're doing this haircut, I want you to imagine there's a string at the top of your clippers. So starting at the 2 o'clock side, we're going to come straight up, just off the head, just coming straight up. If I need to use my comb a little bit to make sure that other hair at the top doesn't get caught in it, that's fine. I just want to make sure that I'm not rocking out. I'm just making that straight up going around. Beautiful. Now I'm going to stop at 6 o'clock. And I'm going to move to the other side. But before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check in with my client. This is a really good opportunity to practice some proficiency in your haircut. When you're able to start at the sideburns or 10 and 2, we can check in with our client. John, how do you like that number 4? He says, oh, that's amazing. It's going to be great. So from here, he's comfortable with that measurement and that length. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move to the other side and do the same thing. Practicing again, coming straight up. If you feel like your hair is a little bit wet, you can brush your comb right there just at the top to give you a little more stability. Again, when your client comes in, he might have shorter hair, so it might just be that you use that hair and body moisturizer as the cutting aid to really kind of keep the hair in place along with the water. Beautiful. All right, now that we've made that good shape and we've taken out the bulk, we're going to go through and do some tapering in the back. Now, when we do this tapering in the back, we're going to practice what's called skip guard fading. So I'm not going to go down traditionally with, a 3, 2, and then a 1. I'm going to start with a 1.5, and I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to scoop my way up. So when we're thinking about blending or tapering, we always want to stick to those small C motions, right? And remember, when we're doing any type of fading, it's not in the elbow, it's in the wrist, right? I particularly love my wall clippers just because they have the rivets in the back, so I know where to place my hands. And I also know where to place my thumb. If you don't have those, that's fine. Just remember to always hold your clippers in a handshake grip or like you were a remote, right? So that we always get good fluidity with our haircut. So I'm going to go ahead and open it all the way. That makes it a 1.5. I'm going to start at the bottom and I'm going to go ahead and rock out to just right underneath where the occipital bone is. Now when I'm doing this in my head, I'm thinking heel to toe, right? So imagining that the bottom of my clipper here is a heel and this is the toes. I'm going to come in and really rock that out, making it nice and smooth as I come through, just below the occipital bone. So this way, as I'm coming in, I am already blending it right into it by rocking out. Really creating that nice smooth shape. Now we are going to do some clipper over comb work in a minute, so if I feel like there's anything that maybe I did miss a little bit, I can go back and smooth it out with that. Okay, after that, I'm going to go ahead and just taper down the rest of this, just ever so slightly. I'm going to use that same skip guarding method, so I'm going to remove my 1, and I'm going to go ahead and keep my clippers all the way open. Remember, if my lever is closed, that is a true 0. If it's open, then it's just a half. I'm going to use that same motion, just coming through. I'm going to go a little faster with my flick, just so I make sure I don't take the fade up too high. Yeah. Oh, hey, you're looking beautiful, John. Love you. Does anyone else name their mannequins? Because I sure do. Glorious. All right, so we're looking really good. He's got a nice taper in the back, kind of bringing it down nice and uniform. Tapering in the back, works really well for those clients who have those really good swirl patterns. Those clients who have maybe a little bit of stubborn hair growth. So, maybe it'll go up and then it'll go in. And there's a difference sometimes between, the cowlicks and the growth patterns, right? So we want to make sure that we really educate our clients. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using my clipper comb and my 0 to go through and really taper down the sides. Instead of using my same method that I just did with my guards, where I go half and then 1 and then 1.5, I'm going to go through and I'm going to be able to utilize and grab more area and be proficient, as well as just create some shape. So I'm going to hold the comb at a diagonal back, which just means the handle is facing backwards. I'm going to bring my comb in at the bottom, and I'm going to really pay attention to, and you guys, this is an advanced class, right? So what we know is when we use our clipper comb, what we're doing is really creating some shape. So I'm going to go through and just really create some nice shape, thinking about that same shape that I made in the back. I'm going to go through and just pivot my comb at the bottom, anchoring it out. Oh, look at that. Anchoring my comb at the bottom and then pivoting it out. You guys got me. You're following along. Good job. So we're going to make it look real good as we go. Really keeping in mind that we're not trying to take it straight up against the head, right? We already created that nice square shape. What we're really doing is just tapering and customizing it to what the client's needs. It also gives you a real good opportunity when you use clipper over comb to really pay attention to the client's head shape, right? We all know Mr. Steve here, or John as I like to call him, he's got a very nice symmetrical head. He doesn't have any divots, he doesn't have any weird spots. You might see a couple weird lines because of where the hair is sewn, but real clients, they're gonna have divots. So your clipper comb is gonna be your best friend in doing clipper over comb, because it's really gonna allow you to have some freedom and some customization. So again, going in, anchoring with the bottom of my comb, and pivoting it out, really focusing on creating that shape as we come around, making it look real nice and sharp. So you'll notice too that I'm holding my clipper comb. I've moved to diagonal forward, which means the back end of my comb is facing forward. Also, you'll notice that I'm holding it right at the top. So when I first started and I was learning how to do this, I did a lot of this, and what I ended up doing was smacking my fingers. So we want to hold it right at the top for the best stability. If you hold it back here, you're going to get a lot of flimsiness, and we don't want that, right? We want to be nice and sturdy when we're going through and doing the haircut. Now in the back here, if I see anything, one little spot, I can come through and just kind of connect or clean it up. But we did a pretty good job there rocking it out. That's pretty good. The other thing I can do sometimes too is go through and feel it and just make sure. And he looks all good. He feels all good. All right, the last thing I'm going to do here on the sides and the back before we kind of move to the top is I'm just going to clean up around his ears. Some people will use the clippers to kind of go through and clean around the ear. I prefer small space, small tool, right? So I'm going to go through, I'm going to imagine the ear is like a clock. So the top is 12 and 3 and 6, or sorry, 9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start and I'm gonna go up to 12, and then I'm gonna come back, and I'm gonna go up to 12, so that I'm moving from one side to the next. And I'm only gonna be using the teeny tiny side of my trimmers. I'm not gonna use the whole side, because I don't wanna give them white walls or, you know, as they say, take off too much hair and make him look cray-cray. That's what my 11-year-old told me the other day. Don't take off too much hair and make me look cray-cray, Mom. Okay. Beautiful. All right, and then in the back there, I'm just gonna make sure he doesn't have any scragglers. Of course, he's a mannequin. He doesn't have any hair on his neck. We know that. But I just wanna make sure that you guys see that I'm not doing this. I'm not scraping down. I don't want that moving blade to be hitting his skin. So we're gonna come straight up. Yeah, you like that, don't you, Joan? It's beautiful. All right, let's go ahead and move to the top now. So what we're going to do is we're gonna take down our top working area. I have noticed at this point that he's gotten a little dry up top. So the first thing I'm gonna do is re-wet the hair. He's already got that hair and body moisturizer in there, so I don't need to add more. I do see people do that at times, and you don't necessarily need to add more. Sometimes he just needs a little wet down. So we're gonna go ahead and do that, just so I have some good control in my haircut, some good stability, right? If the hair is wet, it just means that you're gonna be able to have a more effective haircut and a more effective sectioning when you go through. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to make a section in the back, a horizontal section, and I'm just gonna divide. I'm gonna do it right through the middle of the crown, right where I imagine his callus would be, just so I know where I can preserve some length. Now for me, I am gonna move that hair in the front just a little bit out of his face. We'll pretend like John doesn't like his hair in his face. And also, you know, we just wanna make sure we practice good habits so that when we have clients in the chair, we're really paying attention to their comfortability. All right, so starting in the back at 6 o'clock, make sure you guys can see, there we go. I'm gonna take a 1/2 inch wide parting, so, or about the width of my comb. And what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna measure 3 inches at the top of the section, and that will bring down my bottom section to about 1 inch. I'm not going to be connecting it to that 4. That's not really the purpose, right? We're doing a disconnected haircut. This is just to have some balance in the haircut and preserve a little bit of length. So I'm gonna be using palm to palm. I'm gonna come through, I'm gonna hold my comb at the top of my teeth, the top of my big teeth, and I'm gonna use those little teeth to grab, so that when I'm coming through and I'm doing palm to palm, I'm tucking my elbow. I'm not necessarily doing this and hurting myself. I wanna make sure I have good posture when I'm going through. All right, so 1 foot in front of the other. I'm gonna bring that palm to palm, I'm gonna bring it straight out. I'm gonna measure it to 3 inches, and I'm gonna make my cut. Now, I don't wanna cut into my second knuckle, so I'm just gonna go ahead and follow that same little guide that I've made all the way through the bottom of the section. Now, we'll be using it as a traveling guide just in this back section. I'm gonna continue to stand at 6 o'clock so that I don't lose the holding angle that I'm holding the hair at, which is just straight out. I won't be over directing any of this. We're just gonna bring it straight out and make the cut. Again, dividing it a little bit in half, just enough so I can see my guide, bringing it straight out. Beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna do that all the way until I get back through that whole section on both sides. Beautiful. We like it, we like it. The last little bit section. It's not a very big area we're cutting, guys, so don't stress out. All right, so now that we've got that all cut and ready to go, we're gonna start working on the top working area. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to give him a part right down the middle. Actually, I'm gonna comb them all back so that it's easier to see. Oftentimes when we comb in the hair direction grows, it's a lot more fruitful for us. So in this case, I want to give him a middle part. So we're going to go right where his nose is, right in the middle of his nose, of course, because I don't have a mirror. I just have you guys staring at me on the other end. And I'm going to give him a part right down the middle. I want him to kind of look like the bad guy from Charlie's Angels, if you've seen that movie with Cameron Diaz. Who else is in that movie? Drew Barrymore. Yeah. All right, so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to take a small section from my 4 o'clock side, and I'm going to use that as my guide as I carry it. I'm going to move to one side, and then I will move to the other. Now, a couple of different things. We want to create some forward movement. So we're going to be laterally shifting each section back to the previous cut section. We're also going to really practice on some condensed cutting. Now, condensed cutting is more of an advanced skill, which is good because this is an advanced haircut. Most of you by now are probably already doing some form of condensed cutting because you've built your muscle memory, right? What is muscle memory? Muscle memory means that you have now been adapted to the form where you know where does the hair feel in your hands, look over your fingers. Where are your fingers on the head? How much hair do you have? Those are all muscle memory skills, which are good skills to have. For today's purpose, we'll be doing some condensed cutting. I'm going to come straight out of the head. I'm going to be cutting uphill and over my knuckle, and I'm just over directing it back again to the previous cut section. I will move that other section out of the way. I'm going to move this way so you guys can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to grab that section. And again, when I'm cutting over the knuckle, I am 2 clock positions back so I can really see what I'm doing. Again, sectioning that out. I'm going to move it out of the way so I don't cut it. I'm going to add that to my next section. Over directing it back just to the previous cut section. What I'm doing here is I'm creating some movement in the haircut by keeping the front section of the hair that I'm cutting here longer than the front section or than the back section I'm cutting here. So that short pushes long, right? That log movement will allow me to create a really slick looking look and feel on top without being too heavy. All right, so now we've got that side all done. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna move to the other side. And I'm gonna stand a little bit behind my mannequin just so you guys can see from this way. And I'm just gonna cut a little different. So again, taking from the 4 o'clock side. Okay, and over directing it. I'm gonna cut downhill over the knuckle. And I do see people do this in the stores, and the only recommendation that I have is just be really mindful, again, of your posture. What I will see sometimes is when we start cutting downhill over the knuckle is we'll start to do this, right? We want to make sure we stand tall. We're paying attention to where we're sectioning, making sure that we're still keeping the same methodology as we move around. If you need to stand in front of your client to do it, that's fine too, right? So coming through. I like to, when I'm helping people with haircuts or doing classes virtually, I like to use the guy in the chair because I think sometimes we get really, we get a little self-conscious about standing in front of our clients. Mind you, we do beard trims too, right? So eventually we're going to have to. But remember, your chair is still pretty far away. So as long as you're still being professional, we want to make sure we just give the client the best haircut that we possibly can. And sometimes that means that we do some little weird angles, but that's okay. All right, so now what we're going to do is we came out straight from the hair with our number 4 straight up. We've come straight out, but lateral shift on the side. We're going to go through and take out the point through the middle since we did go here. So I'm going to start in the back, just so I have less hair that I'm dealing with. I'm not trying to grab everything here. I'm going to go through and I'm just going to find any point that there is, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out. I think we did a pretty good job. Should only have a little bit. And again, I'm not necessarily trying to create new sections and new guides. I'm literally, just like we do in core camp, where we do our pie sections, I'm just connecting, there's a good one, point A to point B. Just making sure there aren't any weird spots. All right, so we're almost there, guys. Yeah. Okay, now we're gonna do the fun. You ready to do the fun? All right, so the fun is that we're gonna use our feather razor. So now we're gonna give him a nice little side part. I'm gonna grab my razor here. I just have a basic Joelle, but you can use anything you're comfortable with. All right, so what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna tip him down so we can see a little bit, is I'm gonna be taking horizontal sections and I'm gonna comb them forward, and then I'm gonna use the penciling technique. So the penciling technique means that I'm gonna hold my razor like a pencil. I'm gonna go through and create some really customized individual texture within the haircut. Okay, so I'm gonna come across. I am gonna pull that hair forward just a little bit in that section, just so I can go through and kind of get some good shape and some good texture through the interior as well as the ends. Now, remember, whenever you're using your feather razor, remembering the law of movement, be careful not to go too close to the scalp, right? So really, I'm coming in and I'm really hitting just right here behind my fingers. If I go too close to the scalp, I'm gonna create some short pieces in there. And what happens when we have short interior pieces in a haircut? That's right, you get lift, you get volume. And we don't necessarily, maybe he does, maybe he wants good lift and volume. But for this haircut, really we're just trying to give him some freedom and some texture. So we're really just adding it in very lightly. We're not overdoing it. I'm gonna come through and do just the front here. Now, once I've gone this way, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna switch it to the other side to make sure his texture is evenly spread through his hair. Okay, so same thing. I'm gonna come through. I'm gonna grab that horizontal section. I'm gonna pull it forward. And move this way. Da, 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 da. Yeah, there we go. I'm gonna pull it forward, and again, using my penciling technique, I'm just gonna grab a little bit, not overdoing it again. I'm really grabbing the ends. I don't wanna be too close to his scalp. Again, horizontal side section. Giving him a little bit of texture. Right in the front. Beautiful. Now, oh, he's so glorious. Look at him. So maybe John says, you know, Veronica, I super duper love it, but we might still be a little long up front. Oh, all right. Sweet. So I'm going to go through and I'm just going to do a little bit of tailoring in. I'm going to use that same penciling technique, but I'm going to come through just kind of sliding the razor across. Now, I am hearing a little bit on my head. He is pretty wet, but usually if you start to really hear your razor, guys, that means it's time to change it. Razors are one and done, okay? You also want to make sure that the hair is nice and wet wherever we're using the razor, because we don't want to damage the cuticle. We don't want to fray out the cuticle. Oh, look at him. He's glorious. Well, if you guys haven't noticed by now, I'm in my unfinished office. So I don't have power or electricity, but I will tell you, we've done this haircut before. So I've got a nice feller over here. He's nice and dry. He wanted some really good messy texture, so we blow dried him. And what we used was the tactical texture. The tactical texture is good. It has small little fibers in it that add for good structure. And then he wanted kind of a more shattered appearance to it as well, but he wanted it to stay. So I finished it up and cocktailed it with the Brawler, which is one of my favorites. It's what I have in my hair now, keeping it in my nice 80s ponytail. All right, I think that's it. Thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it, and I will talk to you soon. Remember to keep learning, keep growing. Have a great day. Bye.